Maximillian Alvarez is the editor-in-chief of The Real News, and also the host of Working People's Paw, and the owner of a couple of really great fantasy football teams. So let's bring him on live for us right now. How's it going, brother?
It's going good, guys. How about you?
I'm really happy to have you on the show, man.
Yeah, no, really glad to be here. Love the work that you guys are doing.
Well, I didn't know about the fantasy football thing. That's interesting.
Has David told you his team name yet?
Have you? It might have. What is it, David?
My team is Mike Gundy's mullet. The coach of OC, whose Texas is actually playing this weekend. Hook 'em horns. But we, as much as I would have loved to just bring you out to talk football, man, we honestly have something that's honestly much more exciting and encouraging, which is, I mean, I'm hearing different terms for it: Strikewave, Striketober, just this huge increase in labor militancy. Maybe if you don't mind just sort of starting us off here, I mean, would you say that we're in a strike wave or approaching something like that right now, or do you think we still need a little bit more time to talk like that?
I mean, I guess I've been in that camp of folks who are watching very eagerly, very excitedly, supporting any way that I can, but, understandably hesitant to kind of announce or join the chorus announcing a full-blown strike wave. And I think it's important to kind of explain why. I mean, one of, I think, the most basic sort of preconditions for calling something a strike wave, as opposed to just a number of strikes are happening at the same moment, is I mean, I guess, like, think of like the wave when you go to we were just talking about football. Think about going to a football game. Right? You can have a couple of different people in the stands throw their hands up, but it does not become a wave until the rest of the crowd notices it, sees it coming, participates in it, and it becomes more of a collective thing. And so I think that one of the most essential sort of preconditions for calling anything a strike wave is not necessarily the number of strikes that are happening, but actually, do the workers at these respective strikes, workers who are engaging in these struggles, do they see one another, right? Are they looking beyond, like their own immediate sphere? Are they taking any sort of inspiration? Are they learning any sort of lessons? Are they feeling more emboldened by what they're seeing happening around the country? Are they developing in conversation with other workers outside of their immediate workplace a sort of language to discuss the issues that are collectively aggrieving them? I actually do think that we are entering that sort of phase. We can, kind of talk about this in a little bit when we talk about the quote unquote great resignation, right? But I mean, something like that doesn't just happen because tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of atomized individuals all just happen to feel the same way at the same time, right? We've all seen this sort of mentality in the United States. It doesn't have to be the wave at a sporting event. Could be that same type of feeling that you get when you are shopping, right? And think about, like, the early days of the pandemic, right, when everyone was running to the store and clearing out the shelves, holding arms full of toilet paper. And so then you're thinking, oh shit, like, maybe there's not going to be any toilet paper, or why is everyone getting so much toilet paper? Is there going to be a shortage? Should I go get it? So then you run and go get it, right? So we've seen kind of the consumer side of that. Now imagine that that's happening in labor. Imagine more people are hearing from their family members, their neighbors, their friends. They're seeing on social media that people are quitting, that people are unionizing, that people in unions are striking, right? Imagine the sort of kind of collective force and that can have on you. It makes you feel like you are less of that kind of atomized individual that capitalist society so often tries to convince us that we are. But suddenly you feel slightly more emboldened to say, we're not taking this crap anymore, right? You feel slightly more emboldened to demand what you know in your heart you deserve. I do think that there are more workers around the country who are kind of seeing the folks who are quitting, who are feeling the same things that a lot of us have been feeling. but they're also kind of taking notice of kind of employers being a bit on their heels. They're feeling like, they're going to get more popular support from folks who are kind of actively supporting these labor actions. I think that those are all ingredients that need to kind of be part of what we might call a strike wave. It doesn't have to be something that is like worked out at a convention and then kind of, facilitated across the country, across different unions and different workplaces and so on and so forth. It's going to be a lot messier than that. And it is a lot messier than that. But I do think that sort of self-reflexiveness and that sort of communality of the struggle is the thing that has been largely missing, but does seem to be growing at quite a rapid pace.
It's been fascinating how organic everything has seemed, in that's ultimately where we need to get. But like, this is a response, and I guess we could talk about the Great Resignation, but just the amount of freak out you're seeing from people trying to get, slash unemployment benefits, for instance, try to get people back to work. And there's resilience to it. Is one of the things that's been very fascinating to watch.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's talk about the Great Resignation while we're here, right? So, this is something that I've been thinking about quite a lot. It's something that I've had, not just other folks in the media, not just folks that I talk to, for the real news or working people, but family, friends, people on social media kind of reaching out to me and asking about it. Like, my one of my best friends in the world just, texted me, one of my oldest friends in the world too, texted me kind of asking me about this. I won't out him here, but I mean, like, this is something that is very much, a phenomenon, right? I mean, I had written kind of some of this down before we got rolling, but I guess just for folks out there who are watching, who are kind of wondering what we are calling the quote unquote Great Resignation. We are talking about this sort of phenomenon of record numbers of workers in this country quitting their jobs, right? People saying, for a number of different reasons, this isn't working for me. This is no good. This is not enough. You're not treating me well enough. I know that I deserve better, and I'm out of here, right? So in June and July, the rate of voluntary quits was 2.7% of the U.S. workforce, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But the Bureau of Labor Statistics actually released new numbers this week showing that in August, that rate of quitting was 2.9%, amounting to 4.3 million people who quit their job in August 2021 alone, which is the highest level that the agency has seen since it started tracking this data in the year 2000. And I pulled just some kind of key figures, right? So in August, 892,000 workers quit, food and service jobs and accommodation jobs like hotel jobs. 721,000 quit retail jobs. And again, this is just in August alone. 534,000 in the healthcare sector quit their jobs. And that's pretty staggering, right? And there are so many kind of pundits and politicians right now who are trying to kind of like, they're wrapping their heads around this, trying to figure out what's happening, when I think a lot of what's happening is actually quite obvious. But you're seeing what I had always heard about, but I feel like I had only maybe seen once or twice in my life, which is what you call an employees market or a workers market. Right. So right now, I believe that the official kind of statistics are that there's 7.7 million people who remain unemployed. We can kind of take that number with a pinch of salt. And for the most part, jumping, and there are 10.4 million job openings, right? So there are more job openings than there are supposedly like kind of available workers to take those jobs. You are now actually seeing why employers have tried so hard for our entire lifetimes to avoid this scenario, right? Everyone who's ever applied for a job in their life knows what an employer's market looks like, right? That is a boss folding, his arms making you, apply and kind of write a laundry list of your qualifications, jump through, X amount of hoops, pay out of your own pocket to get certifications and stuff that the employer should be paying for, but they have the power to say, no, you should do it because we have all these applicants, right? We hold all the cards. It's up to us, and basically how high you're willing to jump. That's what's going to decide whether or not you get this job. Now we're kind of seeing like the flip of that, and employers are losing their fucking minds. And that's a good thing, right? And so we can talk more about like perhaps what that means and what is driving it, but I'll shut up now and ask what you guys think.
Well, I mean, I think it was really interesting about this resignation is, the amount of like food and service workers in it. Like as somebody who was, worked in restaurants and bars for, my pretty much like the vast majority of my like youth. I remember very clearly, I had a boss who would keep like a huge binder with him. And whenever somebody would complain, he would pick the binder up and he would say, these are all the, this is a problem. Like these are all the people who want your job. Right. And they would use that kind of threat of, you're replaceable. I can get somebody in a second.
Binders full of workers.
Yeah, binders full of workers, man. But maybe not everyone is as dramatic of that, but people get that feeling from their bosses, right? That's a pretty constant threat in capitalism. And it is interesting to see that dynamic flip, despite the kind of lobbying that we've been seeing from organizations like the NRA, the really evil NRA, the National Restaurant Association, to try to break these benefits, because you realize, I don't know, most people listening to the show are left socialists, but you do really realize how critical the role, either the existence or the lack of existence of like regulation and social welfare programs, etc., are in like this kind of dynamic, and any kind of shift in that has completely changed the rule book, which is why we're seeing such a backlash.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like you saw, so it's there are a couple of things here where we need to like walk and chew gum, which is admittedly, we need to walk and chew gum at the same time, which is admittedly something that those of us on the left are not always really great at doing, right? We tend to hyper focus on one sort of thing as if it excludes all other kind of factors in the situation. What I mean by that, right, is that there were multiple incredible and intense and sort of paradigm shifting things that happened over the course of the COVID-19 pandemic here in the United States. We'll stick here just for now, but we definitely should not be myopic or overly nationalistic about this. But point being is that, those extended kind of social safety net, those extended unemployment benefits were a lifesaver for many people, right? It was, frankly, in my opinion, very much inadequate, right, compared to what people should have gotten. And I will never, frankly, forgive the political establishment for, so gleefully denying people what they desperately needed over the course of the COVID-19 pandemic. It is unforgivable. And like what we got here in the United States was fucking bullshit, frankly. And a lot of people suffered because of that. A lot of people may have had to go into unsafe work because the government was not providing the kind of assistance that they needed. They may have gotten sick. They may have died. They may have passed it on to their family members. So this had real like human implications, the kind of callousness that we saw from Washington, D.C., to say nothing of the quote unquote market and the solutions that it provided to people's woes over the past 2 years. Where I'm going with this is that amidst all of that, with all those kind of caveats, right, the kind of child tax credit like was huge for so many families, right? We saw like these kind of staggering numbers where, what is it, like the kind of the collective wealth of, like the working class, like rose like a tremendous amount just because people finally got some like actual assistance from the government with these extended unemployment benefits. Like, and this kind of ghoulish chorus of media pundits and Chamber of Commerce related pieces of shit and think tank douchebags down there in DC, right? They knew, they could see the writing on the wall. Like they did not want people to have any of this because they knew for so long, the business class and the ruling class writ large has tried so hard to keep people living so close to the bone that we have no ability to take a step back and to actually ask if there's another way or if there's something else that we could be doing with our lives, because like we are always just kind of in that position of taking whatever crap our bosses give us because we desperately need that paycheck, because most American households couldn't even handle an unexpected $400 expense, let alone $1,000 expense, right? If that is the kind of precariousness that, you know, the majority of people are living in, even just the kind of, you know, moderate sort of support that people got during the pandemic, we saw the kind of, you know, again, paradigm shifting sort of result that happened there. You know, I have a book of interviews with workers that I interviewed during like the height of the pandemic in like January and December of 2020 and 2021. That's coming out in a couple months with Or Books, but I was you know, since it's coming out, I've had to kind of go over it and, you know, reread, you know, all those transcripts and kind of remember who we were and what we were talking about in those months. And, you know, it really is just kind of staggering to remember and recognize that for so many people, an event as catastrophic and cataclysmic and deadly as the COVID-19 pandemic was the first time that a lot of workers felt like they had the ability to, as someone told me, this is the first time I felt like I had the ability to breathe. Like I could stay home. I could think about what I wanted to do with my future. I suddenly, you know, for as terrible as a lot of people felt guilt expressing this. They're like, I feel weird saying this because I'm seeing people die. I have family members who die. And yet this is the first time in my adult life when I feel like I've been able to kind of disassociate myself from that daily grind, at least far enough that I could stop and think about what I was doing with my life, whether or not I wanted to take this crap, whether or not I deserved better, whether I wanted to do something with my future, right? After confronting this experience of mass death, right? People literally confronted their mortality over the past 2 years in, I think, a really, you know, powerful and existential way. And that can't be discounted when we're talking about the sort of things that are motivating people to actually kind of stand up for themselves and say that what the business class is offering is not enough.